Hello, everyone. Welcome to the summit. We are back with another speaker and super excited to explore a very interesting concept, a modality, actually, Reiki. And today we have Steve with us. Please help me in welcoming Steve to the summit. Hi, Steve.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for making time. Just a quick intro on Steve. Steve has actually background as a noted artist, printmaker, and a sculptor, and has worked with some of the latest artists. Steve moved into international education at the turn of the millennium and has had a very radically transformative, expansive impact on the art hubs. He has worked in Middle East, he has worked in Eastern Europe. As a part of his own spiritual development, he undertook studies and training in several spiritual modalities, including Reiki, which we will be talking about it in a minute. In recent years, he has focused on developing his visual arts, meditation-based and spirituality-focused courses, retreats, and workshops. And those are offered in UK, Egypt, Cyprus, Jordan, and parts of Eastern Europe. He is now widely considered an authority as a leading personal development coach in Egypt. He works with celebrities, politicians, and media stars. And Steve has written 2 books on Reiki. And what I love is that Steve's perspective is very different than what we hear in mainstream. So super excited to explore this subject with Steve. Thank you again for making time for us, Steve.
My pleasure. It's lovely to be here.
Great. So why don't you share with us a little bit about you, your journey to also explore Reiki, mindfulness. Yeah, would love to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess my journey, I mean, it goes really right back to when I was a kid, when I was, I guess, 12, 13, 14 years old. And my father had books on things like meditation, pyramid energy, hypnotherapy, the Kabbalah, a whole range of sort of esoteric subjects and spiritual subjects. So I started out just by reading the books that my father had on his bookshelf. So I mean one thing that I learned fairly quickly was self-hypnosis, and then how to hypnotize other people. So funny story is when I went to art college at the age of 18, just as a party trick, I used to hypnotize people, which I probably shouldn't have done, but as an 18-year-old, and I just learnt this new skill, it impressed people at parties. So that was sort of, I guess that was really the beginning of my journey. And I guess at the same time, I'd always had this deep yearning inside for, I just knew there was something more to the world, to the universe, than the sort of material world around us. And I guess I was on a journey to discover what that was. I mean, I remember as a 13-year-old, my friends would be, after school, my friends would be playing football, and I'd be standing in the middle of a field, feeling the consciousness of the trees and talking to the sort of vibration, the conscious vibration of nature around me. So I was sort of an odd kid, really. I'd sort of stood apart from what all my friends were doing. Right. And that sort of spiritual quest, I mean, it was just ongoing. I spent, my whole life delving into different things, researching different practices, different traditions, different religious traditions and spiritual traditions, trying to sort of find my way, really. And there's never an end to that journey. That's a journey that is still going on to this day,
Love that. I love that. And I totally resonate with that, a lot of people are like, so the healing is done, the process is done. I'm like, it's never done. If you're alive, the process is going on of exploring.
It's never done, absolutely.
I think which is the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's important to realize as soon as possible that you're not aiming for a goal. You're not aiming for an outcome. You're not going to get to the point where you can say, right, I've achieved this. I've done my spiritual journey. What's next? There is no next, because the spiritual journey doesn't end. There is just the journey.
Right. Yeah. Journey is the destination.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So a lot of people are familiar with the modality of Reiki, and you're a Reiki teacher. Everyone, Steve has asked me not to call him a healer because according to him, we heal ourselves. He just teaches the modality, which is Reiki. A lot of people know about it. It has become, I would say in last 10 years, it has become very well known. But for people who are new to this modality, how would you explain the concept of Reiki? Can you just like explain a little bit about Reiki?
Yeah, as you said, a lot of people are already familiar with Reiki, but I would challenge, to some degree, I challenge that familiarity, because it is widely known as just an energy healing discipline, and it is a very good practice. Within the broad range of energy healing modalities, I think it's probably one of the best. It's a very effective energy healing technique. However, I would say that the energy healing aspects of the system are the easy part of the system. Anyone can do Reiki energy healing. I've taught 5-year-olds who are as good as adults at energy healing. There's nothing difficult about this. Reiki has a lot more to offer than that. That bit you can put aside. And it's certainly in my own practice, I have very little interest in Reiki as an energy healing practice. And I have many of my students, when they come to me, will say, look, I'm trying to find something that will help me on my spiritual journey. I'm interested in Reiki, but I'm not interested in healing other people. Is that okay? And they have this look of guilt on their face, because they assume that, well, if they're going to do Reiki, they must want to heal people. Yeah. And I always say, no, that's perfectly fine. You do not have to get into that whole healing other people thing with Reiki. That's not what the system is for. It's about your own personal spiritual development. That's the function of the system of Reiki. And most people will acknowledge that when they learn Reiki, one of the things they're taught, first of all, is you work on yourself. It's not about going out and being a therapist and healing other people. That is second. First, you work on yourself. And it's not just about putting your hands on and doing energy healing. It's actually about a deep engagement with meditation. Primarily, Reiki is a meditation-focused practice and not an energy healing practice.
So, Steve, that's very different than what we usually hear, right? Sure. Why do you think there is that difference in understanding? Why do we feel that so many people feel that, oh, you learn this technique, sorry, I'm making air quotes, and then you go and heal other people? Like, why do you think there is this kind of misconception?
I think there's many reasons for this. Part of it is just historically, because of the way the system has been passed on down through generations. And I have to say, it's been watered down dramatically in the West. I mean, the Western understanding and conception of Reiki and the practice of Reiki in the West is significantly watered down from its original Japanese origins. That's not to say that there's an awful lot of great stuff going on in Japan either, to be honest, right now. But I think a lot of that, and I mean, I'll reference a guy called Robert Fuston, who's a Reiki master. I think he's from Canada, but could be wrong. Robert Fuston, he wrote a book called Reiki Transmissions of Light. It's a fantastic book on Reiki, and there's one story he told in that book that really grabbed me. And he was talking about when he taught a Qigong teacher Reiki. Now, the Qigong teacher, obviously, his passion, his focus is on his Qigong practice. I think this guy, I think he's probably a full-time Qigong teacher. So this is something that dominates his life. Robert Fuston then taught him Reiki. The Qigong teacher's reaction to that was really interesting, because what he said, first of all, he said, it feels like my Qigong practice has just jumped ahead several years all at one time. Wow. And I thought, you've just nailed what Reiki actually does, the mechanism within Reiki, the initiation that everybody has. what it does is it takes people from wherever they are in this moment to a spiritual level that without the Reiki initiation, they would have spent probably many years working on a daily basis within whatever spiritual discipline they're engaged in to achieve that point, whether that's yoga or Qigong or meditation or something else. It would have taken quite some time to reach the point that the Reiki initiation just propels them to immediately. Now, that could be seen as a good thing or a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing, because a lot of people are just not spiritually mature enough to be instantly catapulted to that place. And this is where you see so much ego in the Western expressions of Reiki these days, because those people were just never ready for that process. That's not everybody, but it's very apparent within the world of Reiki. The Qigong teacher then went on to make one other statement, which made me smile immensely, and it resonated deeply with me when he said, Reiki is just a lazy person's Qigong. And it was just a moment for me. And I thought, yes, you just nailed it. That's exactly what it is. It's a lazy person's Qigong. And wow. I see this so many times, even with my own students when I teach them Reiki. And I emphasize that work on yourself, give yourself treatments, do some meditation. Yes, by all means, go and do treatments on other people. That's fine. But your focus needs to be on yourself. Develop yourself spiritually. And do they do this? Almost never. They're more interested in going out and helping other people. Now, that's great to help other people. But I think it is worth putting this in some sort of context. Over the years, I've come in contact with quite a number of spiritual teachers, advanced spiritual practitioners in all sorts of different traditions, whether that's been Buddhism or Christianity, Islam, many different religious traditions. When you meet these people, you tend to feel really calm and peaceful just because you're in the presence of that spiritual teacher. I remember going to see the Dalai Lama talk many years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be sat in the conference hall fairly close to where the Dalai Lama was going to walk in. And so I could hear the monks coming and the bells sounding, and then the monks were chanting as they came in. And then the Dalai Lama followed with some more monks behind him. And as he walked past, it was like this wave of peace just radiated outwards from his whole being. Now he's not unique in that. That happens with advanced spiritual teachers in all traditions. But that's the sort of effect you get when you're in the presence of somebody who focuses deeply and intensely on their own spiritual advancement. So in the practice of Reiki, as I tell all of my students, if you really want to heal the world, focus on yourself, because your presence in the world then becomes a healing mechanism. Your existence starts to heal the world. Yes, it's great to go out and do treatments on this person and that person and this person. You're making a positive contribution, but is it a big one? Not really. It's not very impressive. But when you work on yourself, your existence becomes a healing mechanism. That's impressive when you focus inwards. And it's all about your own personal spiritual advancement. So I think the whole system of Reiki, as everyone knows this because they're taught it in their own Reiki classes, work on yourself, but the whole system needs to be re-emphasized, refocused on that practice. It's not about go out and be a therapist. That's easy. A 5-year-old can do this. What's tough is to have the courage and the commitment to focus inwards and start developing yourself.
Wow, Steve, this is enlightening. When you were explaining the Dalai Lama moment, I just had goosebumps. And what you said is extremely powerful. Your existence becomes the healing. Yeah, it's powerful.
That's the way it should be. Your presence in the world should heal other people.
Very powerful words, actually. Your existence should be healing. It's not that something you are doing. It's your presence itself should be healing.
And it's very much about that shift from doing mode into being mode. You just be. Just be. and the healing happens while you're doing, well, you're doing something positive, but it's not as powerful as just being your true essence.
Love that. So being in that energy and, healing yourself. So let's think of concept of energy, right? As it is understood in Reiki, and how does that concept of energy is facilitating the manifestation process then?
Well, this is really interesting, and I've been thinking about this for quite some time because I've sort of been familiar with the law of attraction way back from my days as a teenager, reading my father's books on books by people like Norman Vincent Peale and Dale Carnegie, who were early precursors of the law of attraction. I was reading all this stuff back then, and I've been familiar with the law of attraction for a very long time, and I've sort of tried it and played around with it and practiced the different techniques, and not really had a huge amount of success from time to time until I started to make some links between the system of Reiki and the law of attraction. Now, there are possible historical links there, which is another conversation, but we don't need to get into that now. But one of the things that really struck me was that behind the law of attraction, central to the law of attraction, is this concept, excuse me, that universal intelligence is going to enable you or empower you to achieve the things that you want in your life, whatever that might be. Yeah. So this idea of universal intelligence sits centrally within the whole concept of the law of attraction. There are other things that we work with, such as gratitude practices and vision boards, etc. There's lots of other things, but within all of that is this concept of universal intelligence. Well, what is universal intelligence, and how do we know universal intelligence is going to help us? Well, within the law of attraction, all authors within this field will tell you, you just have to believe that universal intelligence has got your back. It's going to help you manifest that thing that you want in your life. Well, belief is okay, but there's a higher level we can get to. We can get to knowing. Well, how do you get from belief to knowing? Well, let's look at the Reiki system, because once we've had an initiation in the Reiki system, what we have is a direct connection which manifests in a way that you can physically feel it, perhaps in your palms, perhaps somewhere else in your body. You feel this energy manifesting in your hands. So you know it exists. Believe it, but it's not about belief. It's a direct knowing. Well, what is that energy? It's the universal energy field. How does that relate to the universal intelligence in the law of attraction? It's exactly the same thing. So we just jumped from belief to knowing, which is much more powerful, because belief can easily give way to disbelief or non-belief.
Yeah.
Knowing, just once you know, that's it. You just know. There's no going back from that point. So it's a much more powerful plateau to be on than the one of belief, which can sometimes be difficult.
Okay, this is again very powerful, Steve, because I told you, right? I shared with you, I'm a Reiki practitioner myself. I don't use it for other people. I just, and you're right. Like when you feel that energy in your hands, there is no way to deny that. I'm like, I feel it. I feel it. Sometimes other people, like, if you're sitting with someone and you're like, oh, it's hurting, let me see if I can do anything. And they're like, I feel it. It's like a strong knowing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. So in that context, right? I have so many questions. Okay, I'm going to take one step back. A lot of Reiki practitioners rely on symbols, right? So can you explain to us, how does this energy, symbol, manifestation, how do we tie all this together?
Okay, so the Reiki symbols, there are 4 Reiki symbols in the system, 3 that are traditionally taught at level 2, and 1 more that is taught at level 3.
Yeah.
These 3 symbols represent different qualities of you as a human being. They're not, there is, I guess there's a lot of confusion around these symbols. People think of the symbols as things that are out there. We learn the symbols. Somebody gives us the symbols in a Reiki class, and we look at them and think, oh, okay, that's really interesting. That's what the power symbol looks like. That's what the mental and emotional symbol looks like, etc. So we're learning some new information. No, that's not true. You're not learning anything new here. These symbols represent deep qualities that are already within you. So although we might never have seen that symbol before, what we're seeing is something that represents something that is already there within us. I mean, to give you an example, when I learned Reiki with my Reiki masters in the UK, and my Reiki teacher, I had two Reiki masters, a married couple, Gordon and Dorothy Bell, who are just amazing spiritual teachers. And I remember Dorothy introducing the Reiki symbols in the Reiki level 2 class. And I looked at them and, okay, listened to the rest of the class. And then that evening I went to bed, and the next morning I got up absolutely exhausted, because that first momentary flash of what's been happening in your sleep, the last bit of that dream that you just can't wake up. As I woke up, I became aware that I'd spent the whole night carving Reiki symbols into a rock face. Now, I trained as a sculptor, so that's a natural response for me. I was carving Reiki symbols. And when I woke up, I was exhausted. I'd been working all night over these symbols. And I mean, as a Reiki practitioner yourself, symbol 3 is quite a complex symbol. It takes learning. Well, on the next day of the class, when Dorothy said, right, can anybody draw the symbols? And my hand went straight up, and within a second, I draw the symbols, because I'd just been hammering.
You were doing that whole night.
But these things are deeply embedded within you. You're not learning something new. You're externalizing qualities that were already there with these symbols. Yeah. So when we bring them into a manifesting process, we're bringing aspects of ourself that are already there. So for instance, if we look at symbol number 1, which is generally known as the power symbol. Now that power is not an external power. What it's doing is it's encouraging you to bring to the fore your own qualities of assertiveness and confidence. It's your own power. Well, where is that power needed within the manifesting process? It's needed in your certainty and conviction that the universe is going to manifest this thing. When you're using your affirmations, or when you're putting your vision board together, you need absolute conviction. That's what that symbol is giving you. You can meditate on this symbol, wind it through your own chakra system. And what's interesting about winding that power symbol through your own chakra system is it terminates at the heart. It terminates at the balance point between all 7 chakras. It terminates at the place where the universe sits within you, in your heart chakra. What's the quality associated with the heart? Love. What is the quality associated with this Reiki energy? Love. That's what it is. This is its natural home, and the symbol terminates just here. Yeah. So there's so many aspects of this, just encouraging you to bring outwards, to externalize your own power, authority, conviction in terms of that manifesting process. And the other symbols similarly have different ways of working on you and from you on that manifesting process.
I must say, Steve, I have learned Reiki. I learned it 17 years ago, actually. And then, I refreshed and, I kept on going up. I feel like this is a totally in-depth perspective. So yeah, thank you for sharing this. You have written an entire book on how to manifest abundance through Reiki. Please tell us a little bit about that book. I've ordered it. I have not started reading it yet, but I'm going to actually, right after the summit is over, that's on my to-do list. But if you can share a little bit with this audience, we have so many Reiki books. You just shared a few, right?
Sure.
So many
Yeah.
Reiki books written. Why just abundance through Reiki?
Well,
Where did that come from?
This is my third book, actually. I mean, the first two books, the first one came out in 2006. That took me about 9 months to write. And
Yeah.
that book was partly an experiment for myself in have I got the confidence and have I got the ability to write a publishable book? So it was sort of, I was challenging myself with that book as much as I was, talking about a subject that I loved as well. The second book was much, by the time I wrote the second book, I knew that I could write a publishable book. This was no longer up for grabs. I just really wanted to get deep into a subject that again, I had a lot more to talk about, and that took me about a year to write. But the third book, the one that I've just released on manifesting abundance with Reiki, I mean, this was it's a funny story, really, because after writing the first two books, but it was such a huge task to write both of those books, I swore to myself, I will never write another book about Reiki. This is never going to happen again. Of course, it did happen again with my second book. And then I doubled down on that conviction at the end of the second book. There is no chance I'm ever going to write another book on Reiki. But I was it was during last summer, early last summer, I was writing some notes on a course called Manifesting Abundance with Reiki. I'd already released it as a short, it's about an hour-long audio course on the Insight Timer app. So I'd done that, and I'd seen how successful that was. I mean, it's had a huge response on Insight Timer. So I thought, well, okay, there's obviously a lot of interest in this particular subject. So I'll write a much more full personal, in-person course. So I started putting that course together. And then having written all of the notes for that course, I just looked at the word count and I just went, oh my God, I've just written another book. There was like 40,000 words there. And I sort of cursed myself a bit because I had sworn I would never write another book on Reiki. And I'd written one by accident. It took me about 3 weeks. So I thought, well, I've written it now. I might as well publish it, So that's what I did. So I self-published this one because, again, it's a bit of an experiment. I didn't know much about self-publishing. So I thought, well, I didn't intend to write this book. It's a bit of an accident. Let's use this one as an experiment with self-publishing. So that came out at the beginning of November. So it's barely a month old, in fact,
Yeah. And I can't wait to read it because that is a topic which is not spoken. Like Reiki is not just like a healing tool, right? Reiki is a spiritual tool and not a lot of people use it in context of manifesting. So I am actually very happy. You can curse as much as you want, but we are very happy that you have written this book and it is going to serve so many people.
I hope so. I hope it does.
Tell us one of the techniques or anything in that book, like give us a sneak peek.
Yeah, there's a lot of techniques in there. I mean, it is quite a slim book, but there's a lot of techniques in this book. Techniques in the book. Okay, I'll try and give you a couple. One that I really like is empowering your breath with Reiki. So, within law of attraction, many people use affirmations. They'll say them quietly to themselves, or even they'll say them out loud. Yeah. But affirmations is sort of a central part of a good manifesting practice. Well, why not load your breath with Reiki when you say those affirmations? And that's very easy to do. You just allow the energy to flow and you just bring it to your mouth. And then when you speak, every word you say those words are being carried on a wave of Reiki energy. And actually, when that energy gets, really builds up, you can feel the heat around the edges of your mouth. I can feel it now because I'm talking about it. My mouth is getting hot. Energy will start manifesting around the mouth. So you're empowering those words with Reiki energy. And you know, I mean, and you know, it's a good tip for any Reiki teacher as well. When you're teaching a Reiki class, as you're talking to your students or you're doing a meditation or something, speak with a Reiki empowered breath, because you're filling that space with Reiki energy, and it just naturally calms all the attendees in that space. So it's a good method to use. Just empower your breath with the energy. Another technique, you can bring Reiki into your vision boards just by putting the Reiki symbols on the vision board itself before you start sticking images, etc., all over it. Put the Reiki symbols on it. Put the Reiki symbols on the back of the images as well. That's a very powerful technique. I once, at the end of my Reiki training, just as a gift for my Reiki teachers, because I was just so grateful for the teachings that I've received from them. As an artist, I wanted to create something artistic for them. So I painted them a traditional Japanese landscape scene as a gift. But before I painted the picture, I covered the entire surface with power symbols, hundreds and hundreds of the things. And then I just painted the picture over the top. I framed it and I gave it to them, and they hung it on their wall. Now, every time I visited them after that, where was the one place in their home that everybody seemed to congregate? Next to my painting. They weren't looking at it. It wasn't because they were appreciating it. It was because the painting was pumping out this positive energy. Wow. So you can empower an image with the Reiki symbols.
I love that.
I'll give you one really special technique using a Reiki symbol. And I am going to have to refer to my book a little bit for this, because it's a little bit complex, and I hope I can quickly find it. Yes, here we go. Here's the page.
Steve, can you show us a copy if you have it on you?
Yes, I do. That's the book, Manifesting with Reiki. Yeah. If you buy the ebook copy, it's got a different cover, but you can get it in ebook, paperback, and hardback. But there is a technique here using symbol number 3, the Hon Shazei Nen, that symbol is. Yeah. Now, when we say that mantra, Hon Shazei Nen, basically what that means, if we were to translate that into English, and there are variations on the translation, of course, but here's a simple translation of that symbol. A deep and sincere wish from the heart is transformed into healing energy or light, which is also the light of wisdom, bringing healing to other beings at the deepest level and connecting them to their origin or source essence. So that's a translation of Hon Shazei Nen. Okay. Now, when we actually look at the meaning of Hon Shazei Nen, we discover that in translation, we're moving from Nen to Hon and not Hon to Nen. The energy flow is the other way. We say it, Hon Shazei Nen, but the energy flow goes the other way from Nen to Hon. We start with a wish. Nen is a sincere wish from the heart. So when we translate that, we're talking about a deep and sincere wish from the heart is transformed into healing energy. So we're starting with Nen. The energy flow goes the other way. Okay. So when we're working with this, that wish can be anything, you know. That in traditional Reiki practices, we're talking about some sort of healing, a mental and emotional healing or physical healing. But a wish is a wish. It could be a wish for abundance on some other level. Yeah. So when we work with the Hon Shazei Nen, if we work with it the other way, Nen to Hon, we start with a sincere wish from the heart, so abundance, let's say. That is, now there's a transformation. This is Do, creates a transformation. This then becomes, through the light of wisdom, which is Zei, that's the central character in the Hon Shazei Nen, universal energy, tapping into that universal energy source again. Yeah, so from our wish for abundance all the way up to tapping into universal energy. And it explains a little bit more how to do it, how to work with that in the book. But that's a really powerful technique. The Hon Shazei Nen is actually expressing the qualities that we're looking for within the law of attraction in terms of manifesting.
Wow. Again, I just had a goosebump moment. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So, and this is my last question, Steve. Well, I can ask you, I can keep, I think, I feel this conversation can, keep going, but we do have, we do have to be respectful of your time. So one last question. For people who are not very familiar with Reiki symbols and the practice of Reiki, yeah, they can go to a practitioner, get the healing. Yes. But is there anything you recommend to those people from a daily ritual perspective that they should focus on? They don't know Reiki. Maybe they are familiar with Reiki, but they are not practitioners. What do you suggest?
If they're not practitioners of Reiki, then I would say get yourself involved in a good, solid mindfulness meditation practice. Mindfulness, not other forms of meditation, mindfulness practice, because it is the foundation and the bedrock of pretty much every other meditation. If you can't do mindfulness, any other meditation you do is not really going to be as effective as it could be. So a good mindfulness practice is a good place to start. But also I'd say start a gratitude practice as well. That's really powerful. Again, this is one of the commonalities between the law of attraction and Reiki. Gratitude is so much a part of any good law of attraction practice, to try and feel genuinely grateful for the things in your life, the people in your life, the circumstances of your life. It's also right there in the Reiki principles to feel gratitude. There are many commonalities between these two systems. And again, I think there are historical reasons for that as well. But again, gratitude is something that everybody can do. You don't need to be a trained Reiki practitioner to do that. And it is so powerful. And there's a lot of science now behind, a good gratitude practice.
Beautiful. Mindfulness practice, gratitude practice is basically like the base that you can build your practice, spiritual practice on.
And have respect and love for yourself. That is most powerful. Love yourself, respect yourself.
Yes. And we all sometimes struggle with that, but just being conscious of that is
absolutely
super critical. Steve, thank you so much for enlightening us today. This was great. This community is so appreciative of your time.
It's been my pleasure. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I hope that's been useful.
Super useful, super helpful. We are so excited to, share this with the community. Also, everyone, we will be sharing social links and website for Steve. So get in touch. There are a lot of resources that Steve has on his website as well. So please do go and check it out. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you shortly in the next session. Thank you, and bye for now.